XCOM 2 can be a difficult game to learn. It's better to think of it as advanced warfare with tactics and movement strategy on crack cocaine. This is your bridge. R1 and L1 zoom in and out. This is your power relay station, one of the most important parts of the game. Adding engineers increases your power. Building similar facilities next to each other gives you adjacency bonuses. That means extra power for nothing. These are your resistance comms. This is basically the whole point of the game. Again, adding engineers creates contacts. Without contacts, you cannot navigate the map. This is your bridge map. Again, you can zoom out with L and R2. From here you can basically see anything that you can engage with on your screen. There's guerrilla ops, intelligence gathering, you can build radio relay towers. Anything in the red may be something you can engage with. This is your armory. Basically, this is the most important part of your vessel. You can look at your soldiers individually, injured or not, change out weapon schematics, customize their looks, upgrade stats that maybe you didn't know had changed. There are personal combat stims, which gives them bonuses in the fight. There are weapon upgrades that you can add, and armor that gives you special abilities. You can also access this menu pre-battle on the launch pad. So from here, you can press Manage Equipment. Understand that when you do this, you're taking it away from every character. So before battle, you'll have to re-equip it. Remember, this is L2. Adding upgrades to your weapons is extremely important. Understand that every time you de-equip via Manage Equipment, nobody has the upgrades. So it helps to go in and actually name your weapons. You can also adjust weapon pattern and color. This is your research center. You should always be researching something. Research is key. It provides upgrades, technology improvements, and special items that you acquire and build via engineering and the proving grounds. Let's work on some battle tactics. When you begin a fight, first thing you need to do is look around your environment. Your group is clustered. R and L cycles through which member you are using. This is very important because your first move can be hindered if you're clustered up. Left and right on the D-pad changes your view. Up and down on the D-pad changes your level, which becomes extremely important later on. Holding L2 will pull the camera away from the battleground, giving you a much wider view. One of the scary things about the game is the fog of war. Walking blindly into any position is never a good idea. Remember, you look with your eyes, not your feet. So moving to this ledge right here, it's a calculated risk. Good way to help bring that risk level down. Save at the beginning of every fight. can see there's nothing here, so I'll go ahead and take a better position. Just trying to generally see the battlefield as wisely as I can. Now I don't see anything now, but there's no reason to end my turn. So pressing R and L cycles to a new character, and I can come back and finish the other turn later. You know, in case a bomb goes off and kills half my team.
Position confirmed.
Again, clearing the fog of war, extremely important. Now I know I can get bodies down there without triggering enemies. I don't push too far forward. Anytime you peek around a corner, you risk being seen. By moving just to the edge of a corner, if the line of sight is good, even if there's an enemy, I won't be detected. Again, I'm going to use a corner peek.
I can cover it.
Big thing here is I didn't move that far away from my team, and I still maintain full cover. That's a full shield logo.
I'm all over it.
Once again, you can see the red tiles indicate that I will come out of concealment if I step foot into that area. Another tricky thing is, I'd love to take the outside corner of this building, but I don't know what's inside, and I can't see it yet. Now I can try to mitigate some of this risk later.
Move into designated position.
Again, no reason to end my turn now, so I'll just switch to a different character. Shotgunners are really important. Later on, they have the option to re-enter concealment after they take an action. Once again, I'm not really sure about the interior of this room, so I'm not going to chance it.
Getting it done.
Affirmative. Covering now. Moving to Overwatch.
Now we're going to talk about line of sight and battle strategies. If you look, you'll see that I now have two teams split apart. One on the high ground, one on the low. Now I can safely move the man on the high ground. I want to peek down into this room. The trick here is if I drop through the glass, I'm revealed. Anywhere in this dark area could be death, especially for a single character trapped out in the open. That's why sprinting is not always a good option. Always move within the blue tiles if you want a second turn. Say, if you needed to retreat. I'm afraid of that ledge over there. So here's a good example of team movement. You have a team, you want to clear as much space as possible. You're putting eyes on the environment so you can identify threats quickly. Break apart into two teams, moving up the alleyways slowly and safely. keeping people on overwatch often. When you get to the end of the alleys, hopefully you still have a turn left. That's the tricky part. Okay, so the one in the left alley has just encountered enemies up top. Now the big thing is you are going to be engaged if they saw you. Assume that you've lost concealment. One solution is to move the other team up. That's why it's important to keep them near enough and on the right turn for them to engage. Now you have some backup. Alternatively, you could fall back to a pre-positioned idea where you already know the layout, you already know what's there, you have full cover, and you force the enemy down that hall. Always have a fallback position. Again, what we've done in this area is we've kind of created a corridor that we want to peek down. We have a good idea that there's probably nothing in this room now, so we'll go ahead and start making some moves. Again, I'm currently in concealment. I have the luxury of not having a timer started, so I can take my time and assess the damage. Every time the turn ends, assume that enemies are moving. It's another good reason to keep people on overwatch and close enough together that they can reposition.
Move into position.
What you're seeing now is my attempt to, as safely as I can, peek down that corridor. And the way that you do that is by constantly staggering over and over while leaving yourself room to move. So this is the whole thing. Being able to relocate and flank your enemy, drawing them to where you want them to be. If you look off in that darkness over there, anything over there could pop out. Instead of facing 3 guys, we could be facing 12. Now I'd love to peek at them through this room, but there's a window right there, and they could see me move across that hall. So I'm going to have to find a different way to flank them. In the meantime, I'm going to take up defensive positions and get ready to push that corridor. Again, with those guys so close to that edge, getting on top of them, probably not the best idea. Better to get a line of sight first. One of the tricky things, and why it's so important to utilize your D-pad, is moving up and down between levels. Moving in the dark like that, in the fog of war, that can be tricky. So if I am going to move, I assume that there are going to be line of sights between me and the enemy. I'm not going to sprint anywhere. I'm going to move cautiously into full cover as often as I can, saving turns. In case something goes wrong, I can set my guys up into defensive positions. So right here, I found some full cover next to that window, and if I'm lucky, even if they can see through it, I won't trigger them.
You can never escape my sight.
Again, I'm trying to determine the best route to flank the enemy as quietly as I can. I'm afforded this luxury because we're still in concealment and there is no timer.
That's affirmative.
Again, I'm flanking to engage, so probably a good idea to give my man backup. So each enemy type has a specific sight radius. And I can see the end of the sight radius right here. So if I'm going to move to this rail, I should assume that it can get up over there at least one tile. So I'm going to move on the outside edge up top.
Move.
Now the closer I get to the enemies, the more a single soldier can see an enemy's sight lines, the easier it is to identify which tiles will reveal him. And you can see, had I moved up there earlier, had I sprinted off that ledge initially, I would have immediately been engaged and probably lost. Again, there are only 3 enemies here, but in the middle of a fight, anything can happen. Now, traditionally, your heavy gunner has the worst aim
Moving to
and
designated
range
coordinates.
out of everyone. Even worse than the shotgunner. So by keeping these guys close to the fight, I increase my accuracy and my chances of doing damage. Once again, they're not bunched together, but they're close enough that they can assist one another if need be. And I have an egress. I can always jump through that window on the first floor and force them in after me. You can see I've got better lines of sight on the enemy. What I'd like to do is take their back at a flank, so when the action pops off, I can bring it to them. Even if they try to fall back into full cover, I can still get a couple of free shots off in Overwatch. The trick here is, as I'm trying to flank, don't run out into the fog of war. Do not trigger anything else. We're trying to keep this ambush covert and quiet. One of the tricks you can do with your button commands is holding X. Instead of running to the position, holding X gives you an icon tag. You can then release X, choose a final position, and then press X again for the move.
Volk says I am to obey. The time for hiding is over.
Again, I'm just working on sight lines, tagging enemies, figuring out what's going on. I like my position, there's no reason to move, I'm just going to stay there. Now if you're in concealment, unless you're revealed, Overwatch doesn't work. So you really have to be careful about how you act. Again, this is a good example. If I don't pay attention, I'll jump right through that window and reveal myself. So I will press and hold X to create a tag, and then choose a location to finish the action.
Understood. Moving out.
And now I've got great sight lines. I could initiate with this guy on the ambush, but I'd rather him be in Overwatch. Now, I don't want to get myself killed. Super important that if things go south, I can pull my guys back. If you notice, I'm going to use an acid bomb for my heavy gunner. He has a skill set that allows him to fire and then move again. Acid bombs take down armor. They also leave a big puddle.
They found it.
At the end of the turn, these guys will take an extra hit point of damage from that acid. And they scatter. Some enemies are very hard to hit. Sometimes you have to be in their face. Some people you take them out with a sword easier. Some people it's better to use explosives. Some people maybe try not to engage them at all if your criteria for completing the mission has nothing to do with killing enemies. See how far you can get before you're forced to engage. Here's another example of good tools. The Mimic Beacon. By the time you're done, you should have 3 of them on your crew at all times. You're going to toss this thing out. It's going to reveal your position, but it creates a decoy. The decoy is what everyone can see, and when they see it, that's what they'll attack at the end of their turn. It does have a health bar. Generally, it's going to take 2 to 3 hits. It's a get out of jail free card. It buys you time, opportunities. So I'm using my hacker, my support, and he's about to wreck this robot's day. A lot of times when you hack, it'll end your turn. If you're hacking from concealment, be careful. Sometimes it will reveal you. It really depends on the situation and the skill tree you've unlocked for that character.
Let's get it.
You can increase hacking stats. A great way to do that is to open security doors with your hacker. So if you're saving often and you realize there's an opportunity, utilize it, because hacking takes forever to get good at. The heavy gunner has a skill tree that caters to destroying mechs.
Yeah, I didn't get it.
And I would recommend choosing that one as quick as you can as you develop the skill tree. It gets, I believe it's up to 50% more damage against mechs. Apparently clouds of anything affect accuracy as well. You can see I'm just checking my surroundings. I don't want any surprises. Basically, I operate under the assumption that at any point, another team is going to move in. Sounds are important, and if you're creating explosions, enemies are likely to hear that, and they will come investigate. It's a very interesting AI. This character exists on War of the Chosen DLC. Basically, a kill from concealment stays in concealment. So she becomes the perfect recon specialist for your team. Again, pay attention to your hit percentages.
Want this? There you go.
Looking around, no real reason to move. I don't want to give anybody else something to shoot at in case I trigger enemies. Everything's good. Everything's cool. That device that was going to trigger us, I can now hack that as well. Different items that you hack give you different effects. This dodge increase might as well be full cover for anybody, even if they're at half cover.
We're in.
Now all I have to do is mop up.
That's how it's done.
Now if you notice, the music changed. Sounds are important. Thanks so much everybody for joining me on my walkthrough. $4 Productions, bitches.